back on stage to give us a talk on Google AdWords and Google Analytics, Mr. Jose Manuel Cellan.
Okay, so I'm not gonna make everyone stand up now, so I'm pretty sure you have an idea of who I am. So I'm just gonna talk to you now about Google AdWords and Google Analytics and how you can use our platforms to reach new customers, reach people that you want to send your message to, right? So search and display. But like before I start, I'm gonna, I'm sure you're all curious about how I landed a job in Google. So I'm gonna share my Google journey, like just maybe a quick 5-minute intro about how I did it. So, you know, contrary to popular belief, right? Google does not just look at where you graduated. They don't just look at your grades. And, you know, the kind of process that I've gone through was, well, it was rigorous, it was tough, it was challenging. But, see, I did not graduate from a really good school, right? It's not a very popular school, but I was, I did my best to get really good grades and worked really hard. So my first job was actually as a call center agent. So I was I did a lot of troubleshooting for clients in the US. So I was up like in the middle of the night troubleshooting computer cases. But anyway, and then I moved on and I learned how to, you know, create websites. So I did website development. I did a lot of coding. I did a lot of writing. And eventually I got into internet marketing. And that's where it all started, right? So I use the platforms that, that Google has a lot. So it's really a lot of AdWords and a lot of display marketing campaigns. But the best part, I guess, is that I'm able to see how much my clients have grown because of the campaigns that I ran. So I think that for me is really very fulfilling. And you know, when I finally got the job with Google, the first thing that I posted in my social media accounts is not, hey, I got the job at Google. It's the first thing I posted was, there can be miracle if you believe. There can be miracles. So I thought it was like who am I to be taken by Google, right? So as I look back in my career, I just realized that there's just so much sacrifices that we could have done, that I have done, and so many things that I've taken for granted because I wanted to have a good career. But I think the most fulfilling part of my job is that I found the higher purpose. So I guess for all the young people here, find that higher purpose when you work. Why do you work? Why do you want to work, right? For me, that purpose is this picture. So I work for my family. I work hard for my daughter, and I do my best. I make sure that I give 100% in everything that I touch, right? Okay, so quick intro. So I'm an analytical lead. I dig a lot of data. I look at data, and I'm very focused on performance-driven campaigns. So think banks, classifieds, e-commerce, travel, airlines, hotels. Those are the clients that I really focus into. So I advocate and I evangelize Google Analytics. And I've worked with agencies. I've worked with client side. I had client side roles as well, right? And then, okay, so moving on to Google search and display. So this is a video that, I'm going to show you a video wherein we collated all the amazing searches that was done back in 2014. So have a look.
here's what gives us hope. The world knows how to fight this disease.
Here we go. Ready?
Did you hear those words?
Just rendezvousing with this comet is an extraordinary thing. We're going to make discoveries that no one's imagined yet.
Right, so that's a year in search back in 2014. So those are the things that people searched for. You know, if anything that interests us, if we want to find out about something, if we want to learn more, what we normally do is really we ask Google, right? So we search for things, we look for information, and then we learn a lot of stuff, all right? So just a quick definition, right? What really is search? So when I speak about search, you know, Google search is really one of the greatest database of intentions, because when you do a search, you know what you're looking for, right? People already have this mindset that they want to learn about this particular topic, about this particular product, and that's why they do a search. So if you dig into our database of Google searches, so if you look at so there's a tool out there called Google Trends. So if you look at Google Trends, you'll be able to see like the top things that people search for. And you'll find out a lot of interesting information, and you'll really know if a certain product or a certain topic is rising, because it will tell you that there are a lot of people who's looking for it. Okay. All right, and if you were here yesterday, I introduced a new mental mode of marketing, which is called the moments. So those are micro moments, right? So let's play the video.
grinding sound when you turn the key?
All right. So that's micro moments, right? Those are moments that matter to people. Every one of us have that, and it's a new way of thinking on how you can create content and on how you are able to craft your message for the people that you wanna send it to. Okay. All right. So it's going to get technical sooner. And I'm gonna try my very best to make sure that you understand the product better, and for you to be able to use the Google ad products as well. All right, so just to understand some common terms, one is, number one, organic results. Organic results are So those are search engine results pages, and those are not paid for, right? So that's the key thing. It's not paid for. Next is the keyword. A keyword is something that a person searches for within our search engine. The next is an impression. So you'll hear this a lot when as I go on in the presentation. So an impression is the time when a particular ad is viewed by someone. So someone searched, and if an ad showed up, that's called an impression. Okay. Next is CPC. So what it only means is it's cost per click. So that's how we earn our revenue, right? So it's a cost per click model. So if someone clicks on the ad, that's the only time you pay for it. You don't pay for an impression, right? So you only pay when someone clicks, right? And the CTR is, of course, it's the click-through rate. So that's clicks divided by impressions. Okay. So this is a sample of a search, right? So if you go to Google, I know our logo has changed. I haven't updated this. Sorry about that. So if I'm a person and I search for flights Manila to Japan, the next slide will show what a search results page would look like, right? So the one on the top, and there are items on the top, on the side, and on the bottom of the page, right? So the next slide will show what organic results are. So those are what we call the natural results. So you don't pay for that. And you, personally, I did a little bit of optimization for search engines that would help you rank in organic. But to be honest, it takes a while before you get into the top of this ranking, right? So it can even take you months, like 6 months onwards, before you could really achieve first page results. And then the next one that I want to show are the sponsored ads. So those are the ads that advertisers, where advertisers are able to show their message to the people. So on the top, there are 3. And then on the side, you can have up to 8. And then at the bottom, I think you can have 2 to 3 different ads, right? So the next slide, yeah. So that's the way we rank the ads. And if you're interested to know why and how we're able to rank those ads, it's not really just because those advertisers are bidding a lot for it. It's not based on how much you bid on it. Right? So the next slide will tell you that the position is based on a formula. So see, with Google, we like to complicate things. So the next slide, I'm going to share with you how we try to rank our advertisers. So I mentioned about CPC. So that's cost per click. What is the maximum cost per click that you're willing to pay? Right? So we don't really force our advertisers to okay, you have to bid $5 for this particular keyword, right? So it's the amount that you're really willing to pay, and we multiply it by the quality score. So a quality score is how we determine that an advertiser shows relevant messages for their audience. So an example of it, so I'll show you an example of how we calculate quality score and what are the different things that go around it. And then the next is the use of ad formats. So slowly we have already evolved the different ad formats that we have within Google. So if you have been searching Google for quite some time, like a couple of years back, we didn't have the opportunity to integrate it with maps. We didn't have the opportunity to integrate it with a call feature. Like right now, you could click on an ad and it goes straight to a phone call. Okay, and that's how we calculate ranks. So the next slide will say the things that happen within the quality score. So we reward advertisers who are relevant to to the people who are searching. Because with Google, what we really want ultimately is the user experience. We want people to be able to find out what they are looking for easily. So first thing is the click-through rates, right? So if someone clicks on an ad often, then it gives a signal to Google that this particular advertiser is very relevant and people like what they're showing. People like the proposition of the ad. So that's a big weight when it comes to quality score. Next is ad text relevance. So what do I mean by ad text? So ad text is, so those are the text ads that you see. So when someone searches, so if you remember the screenshot that I showed earlier, those are the ads. So you can show very targeted ads, and it has to be relevant in a way wherein, so if I searched for flights Manila to Japan, and you showed me an ad that says Manila to Singapore, that's just not relevant, right? So that's a big weight when it comes to quality score. And the next is landing page quality. So when I say landing page quality, your website has to be able to load fast. The content must have whatever it is that you're saying in your ad text, right? So if you're saying that you're offering free tutorial, for example, in your ad text, and then your website doesn't say that it's free and you charge someone, that's not really relevant to the ad. So what happens if you have a low quality score, right? You get to pay more. That's what happens if you have a low quality score. So we reward advertisers with lower costs if the quality score is high. Okay? So these are the different ad formats that we have. So what I would like you all to take away from this is that you should take advantage of the different formats that we offer. So if you want people to call, for example, your call center numbers, then you can create an ad wherein the click directly goes to a phone number, right? So that it eliminates more clicks for the user. It's very user friendly, right? And then yeah, it actually helps increase the real estate of your ad. So it increases the size of your ad unit if you use ad extensions, right? So just to break down what a search ad looks like. So there's a headline, and we call it the hook. We call it the hook because it's, so as you can see, the headlines are colored blue. So it's very easy to see, and you're able to highlight your message immediately. And then the line one, you're able to say what it is that you're offering. And then the sinker, or the line two, that's normally where advertisers put their call to action phrases, like call now or book now. So that's where they do it. And then, so the display URL, so that's just basically the URL that you want them to go to, okay? All right, so here's a sample of how it works, right? So this is Ernie, and make sure that when you create a particular, when you run a campaign, make sure that you focus on the user, because ultimately it's the user that you want to reach. It's the user that you really want to target, right? So this is Ernie, and he searched for rubber ducky, right? He likes rubber ducky. And of course, he goes to a page that says, that sells a lot of rubber duckies. So that's, in a typical scenario, that's the ideal scenario that you want, right? But imagine you're Ernie and you're looking for a rubber ducky, and then all of a sudden you show that if the ad says buy rubber ducky and the landing page is, I don't know, teddy bears, most likely Ernie will go out, right? He's not gonna buy anything from you. It's not a good experience for him. So this is the ideal scenario that you want to get into, right? So if someone searched for something, show them the most relevant message, and land them on the most relevant page. And that's how you're able to engage your audience better, and that's how you're able to craft a better message. Yep. So this is a sample from, this is a case study that was done in Vietnam. We're actually working on having something for the Philippines. And this actually is, this is a very inspiring story wherein the guy is a small business. He handles food, a local delicacy in Vietnam, but he's not able to reach the people that he wants. So he used our Google product to make sure that he's able to send the right message to the people. Right. So let's play the video.
Ở Việt Nam thì cái món cá kho đó là một cái món rất là phổ thông, nhưng mà cái món cá kho làm vũ đài này hoàn toàn là khác biệt, hoàn toàn cái người này người dân ở đây ghi lại xưa kể lại chính là cái món để của nhân dân tiến lên nhà vua đời Trần chừng 600-700 năm rồi. Tôi là Nguyễn Bá Toàn, tôi là khơi dậy cái niềm tự hào của họ để họ cống hiến ngày càng tất cả các người dân tại Việt Nam thưởng thức món cá kho này làm sao để tiếp cận với khách hàng. Chúng tôi phải trả giá rất là nhiều, phải trải qua rất nhiều những cái thất bại, như cái chi phí. Tôi đã quảng cáo trên báo giấy, tôi vẫn lỗ, và rơi phát chẳng thèm đọc, ta vất cổ ngày xưa, ta chán và biết được đến dịch vụ quảng cáo của Google, đó là Google Adwords.
I've never seen this kind of business online. Breakfast is such a familiar dish to me. My mom cooked that at home in Vietnam. My name is Nguyen. I am part of the SME service team at Google. At first, when Mr. Tuan contacted me, he has a question about how to use the keywords to drive people to his website. So I told him that there's 3 or 5 keywords that you really want to own so that whenever someone searches for braised fish, you will be on top. With AdWords, you don't really need to invest too much. You just need to invest very smart.
Cái công việc kinh doanh của tôi kể từ khi mà tôi sử dụng dịch vụ của Google là nó thay đổi hoàn toàn. Đó là quá là tuyệt vời.
After he invested in Google Display Network as well, he just kept expanding. He said to me, "Wow, I can't even handle the expansion anymore. This is too quick."
Điều mà quan trọng là tôi thấy là nó cải thiện lên cái chất lượng quảng cáo của tôi rất là nhiều. Rất là cảm ơn bạn Uyên đã tư vấn cho tôi rất là nhiệt tình trong cái thời gian vừa qua. Tôi ước mơ rằng là một ngày nào đó mà trong tất cả các gia đình của Việt Nam thưởng thức con món cá rất là tuyệt vời như thế này. Khi mà cái công việc kinh doanh của tôi phát triển, ngày càng phát triển, tạo việc làm cho người nuôi cá này, chở gỗ thuê cho tôi, cái hộ mà sản xuất nưu đất này, tất cả chúng ta đều có phần ở trong món đó. Ngôi làng này, truyền thống này.
Okay, so yeah, it's a very inspiring story from Vietnam. We're hoping that we can have a similar video done for the Philippines, like any of our small businesses who share the same success, right? So if there's one thing to take away from the video, it was mentioned by my counterpart in Google, Uyen. So she mentioned that you don't have to invest a lot, right? You just have to invest smart and be smart about doing it. So that's really the main gist of search. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on from search to display. So I'm sure all of you have actually been to websites where you see ads, right? So Google has partnered with several website publishers, so we're able to show ads as well against their pages. Okay, so I'm going to show you how that's done. All right, so first, some stats. As much as I love search, we only search around 5% of the time. Most of the time, we're out there consuming content. We're reading news, we're watching videos, we're reading news or watching entertainment channels, reading about our favorite celebrities. So that's normally what we do, right? And Google Display Network, here in the Philippines, we're able to reach around 80+% of the websites. And in addition, so that's on top of the other Google properties. That's on top of YouTube and Gmail. Okay. Right. So the next slide will show this is the reach that we have globally. It's over 90%, and there are millions of websites that have partnered with us. So that is through Google AdSense, right? So if you're a website owner, you can actually partner with Google, sign up with AdSense, and yeah, earn money from advertisers. Okay. Right. So Google Display also works across different products. So I mentioned how multi-screen it has turned out for this generation, right? So Filipinos, we use 2 to 3 different devices each day, and our display network works seamlessly across all those devices. Right, so the next slide, please. So Google Display Network helps you reach the right person in the right place, the right time, and you're able to show them the right message. What I mean by this is that, so people, say for example, you're looking at a sports page, right? So obviously you're a sports lover. Obviously you like certain teams. So imagine imagine an advertiser, let's say any of the famous shoe brands, right? Those selling their basketball shoes, selling their soccer shoes. It's very relevant because those people are already engaged in the content, right? Okay. So there are different signals. See, it gets even more complicated, right? There are different signals that we use to target our advertisers. So one by one, I'm going to tell you and talk to you about it. So there's demographic targeting. So let's focus on the right hand side first. So there's demographic targeting. We can target by age group. We can target by gender. And then there's audience and behavioral. So which means that we're able to tell if you like, let's say if you're a TV lover, if you're a movie lover, we're able to infer that data, and you can target people who like that. And then of course there's remarketing. So anybody here who's been to the Agoda page? Anyone book their hotels through Agoda? Okay. So I'm sure you know that every time you visit Agoda and you visit a different website, you go to Inquirer, for example, to read news. You go to Philstar to read news. You're still able to see Agoda ads, right? And that's remarketing. That's the technology of remarketing. They're able to follow you wherever you are, and give you better offers and urge you to book their hotels. Okay, so that's remarketing. Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? So on the left-hand side, so right-hand side is all about the users and what they like and what you infer about them. Left-hand side is about the publisher. So there's contextual targeting. You can target the content of the pages. So if someone is a blogger and he or she writes about travel, about beaches in the Philippines, and you target that type of content, your ad will show up in their blog. And then there are topics and categories. So topics such as travel, hotel, automotive. So those are the different topics that you could touch. And then there's the run-off site. So when we say run-off site, it's just naming what kind of website what website do you want your ads to show. So if you want to choose just Inquirer or Philstar or ABS-CBN, so any of those sites, then you could just pick that and show your ads only on those sites. So that's the publisher or the website owner side. Okay. Next slide, please. So here is an example of how we use data to influence the path to purchase. So just a quick example. So if that's me, I'm a traveler. I love to travel. So one, if it says that I regularly read travel, so the first part there, right? I regularly read travel and any related blogs. So the next one will say that I am a travel enthusiast. So Google will infer that I like to travel. And the next part is browsing videos of Philippines resorts. So if I ended up looking at resorts in the Philippines, then that tells Google that I'm already trying to consider a beach vacation. And then moving forward, if I try to compare prices, then Google will say that, so the next slide please, will say that I'm already in the market to travel. So Google knows, or the system knows, that I'm ready to buy something. I'm ready to purchase a travel product. Okay? And then if I don't purchase a product and I visited a website, so the next part will show that people can still re-engage me and then reach me again through other channels, right? So that's a quick example of how we are able to gather and use data to infer, okay? And on a good tip when you run display campaigns, so one is always use context, right? So when I say always use context, we have tools that can help you find out if on the left-hand side a person searches for hotels, and we know what kind of device they're using, right? So we know that they're using laptops, we know that they're using computers, then we can basically give them more information. We could tell them, we could show them reviews, site reviews, we can show them a lot of pictures, because we know that it works well on laptops, and we know that they're at home as well, right? On the right-hand side though, someone is on mobile, and we know that he's on the airport. We can show them a little bit more direct type of message, wherein, okay, this guy is in the airport, he's on his mobile phone, he's obviously ready to book. Let's do away with all the promotional messages. Let's do away with all the promos and just make them book immediately. So that's how you use context to maximize your campaigns. Okay? So as I mentioned earlier, there's efficient reach across all the different marketing objectives. So all those products that I have mentioned, right? So they are able to reach people at certain stages of their purchase funnel. Okay? So I'm not gonna go deep into marketing. I'm not a marketing guy, but what this just tells you is that there are products from every stage that your audience or your customer is into. Okay? All right. So a little bit more about demographics. So it's very scalable in a way that you can reach a lot of people, and it's very efficient and it's optimized. So the system, through years of existence, is already able to make sure that that the audiences are targeted on the best way possible, and it is also accurate, right? So we use declared data. So if you have a Google account, right? So you put in your gender, your age. So we know that data. And then the other part is that we also use inferred data. So what is inferred data? It's based on your behavior online. It's the type of websites that you visit. It will infer if you're at this certain age group. Okay. So there are different audiences. So affinity audience. So just to put it in perspective, affinity audiences are so it's used for reach, to reach a lot of people. Affinity audiences is based on your passion. It's based on your interests. So wherever you are, if you're looking at, for example, news sites, it doesn't always mean that you love news, right? There are overlaps. If you're an active traveler, for example, you're a travel buff, any website that you are, even if it's not necessarily a travel site, advertisers can show ads to you. Like for example, myself, I like to travel, but I also like sports, right? So even if I'm reading a blog about the NBA, advertisers like Agoda can still reach me because they know that I love to travel. So that's how affinity audiences work. And going deeper into the other audience targeting criteria, you'll see, next slide please, will be in-market audiences. So what are in-market audiences, right? In-market audiences are audiences wherein we determine a signal that they're ready to purchase something. So here's an example. Real estate, right? So if you like reading blogs, or if you like reading news about certain properties, if you like going to those places, we know that you have the affinity. You like real estate. Maybe you're an architect and you just want reading about those things. So that's affinity. But when you start looking at housing loans, for example, and loan calculators and all that gives Google a signal that you are ready to buy a property. And that lumps you into the in-market audiences. Okay? And that's how advertisers are able to target you more efficiently, because they know that you're ready to buy. Okay? So next slide will show similar audiences. So we don't really just limit the reach to the people who have been to your site. So we've also developed the technology to reach people who are similar to that behavior, right? So what it says is that it extends to different people who share the same characteristics as the people who have already visited your sites. Okay? And then, of course, there's remarketing, which gives you that second chance to reach your audiences. So if you failed to convert them the first time around, you could always convert them again. Okay? All right, so here is an example of an advertiser who used affinity audiences to achieve their goals. Okay, so here's go.
I think one of the things that's driven our success with AdWords to date has been our voracious appetite for testing new initiatives, new technologies, and new strategies. Wayfair was started in 2002. According to Internet Retailer, Wayfair is the second largest retailer of homewares, behind Williams-Sonoma and ahead of Crate Barrel. We have 7 million products from 12,000 brands.
It evolved over time. We had about 200 microsites before we consolidated them all and built the Wayfair.com brand. So we've been advertising with Google since the inception of the company.
The initial process is somebody will click on an ad, give us their email address, hopefully browse around the site and get a feel for who we are, our value proposition. Then after that, we really do think about kind of how do we continue to market to these people over the course of their lifetime to make sure they know who we are and what the products are that we sell. Our main online marketing goals are direct response driven. We're really just trying to drive the maximum scale possible.
What first got us interested in market audiences is the idea that this product can help bridge the gap between display advertising, which is very much a top-of-funnel channel for us, and search marketing, which tends to focus on folks who are further down the funnel and ready to make a purchase.
I think the difference with in-market audiences is that you're much more able to effectively find customers who are right on the cusp of purchasing. So they've been kind of through the consideration process, and they're really just looking for the perfect deal or the perfect place to place their order.
The reason we are excited by display advertising is it does expand your reach. in addition to just getting the hand raisers, you're also able to reach people based on signals that we have.
Just trying to get people aware of our value proposition and make sure that they understand that regardless of your style, regardless of your budget, we have the things that you're looking for.
All right, so that's just the use of in-market audiences. So similar to search, you don't have to invest a lot. You just have to invest smart. Okay. All right. So I'm pretty sure you're now curious on how we are able to find out about what you like and what your interests are. So try to log in to your Google accounts and go to this page, google.com/ads/preferences. So this would pretty much tell you what Google thinks you like. So all right, so let's have a look at what I like. I took my results earlier. So my interests. So I did mention that I like to travel. So Google had lumped me into the category air travel. And so there's food and drink, horror films. I like watching with my wife because she screams a lot. So there's the massive multiplayer games. So I'm also an avid gamer. And so that's how Google sees me, right? And then, so that's my interests. So if you go to the next slide, that's my profile. So they know that I'm a male, that I'm in the age group of 25 to 34. So that's how we infer the demographics. And then the other slide shows your interests and your affinities. So if you have connection, go to google.com/ads/preferences, and that's how we know about you. So it's a cookie tracking technology. So we track your behavior in a non-invasive manner, and we're able to infer the things that you like. Okay. All right. So moving on to the topic that I love. It's measurements, right? So I'm a data guy, and I love measurement. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips on how you can measure in today's real world. Okay, so in every day, businesses, they have so many conversations with their customers, and the big risk about this is that, so in the next slide, the big risk is that you might show the wrong message to the wrong person. A big risk could be maybe you're showing it to the wrong channel. You're using the wrong medium. Maybe you're reaching the wrong people, and maybe you're investing on the wrong channel. So, how do we really solve this problem? So, the next slide will show the different steps or the different tips from me on how you can measure for today's customers. So, number one is always focus on the correct metrics. Second is value your customers. Third is always learn how to attribute. And then the last one is always validate, test, and always test if something that you did really amounted to something, right? So first things first, always focus on the right metrics. Okay, set your own goals, right? So next slide, please. Always find out what you're trying to achieve, okay? So is it brand awareness? So brand awareness meaning, do you really want to get your name out there? Do you really want to get your voice out there so that it becomes top of mind of people? Next is, are you looking for engagement? Are you looking for leads? Or are you looking for people to visit you in your centers or to visit you in your physical stores, right? So across all those different objectives, of course, there are different goals attached to it. So if you want to track leads, always make sure that you also know what the cost is of those leads, okay? All right, so next slide, please. All right, so ultimately, it's really about generating profit. Most of my clients, that's really what drives our conversations with them. It's not about how many clicks did I get. It's not about how good my click-through rate is. It's more about how much did Google bring me? How did Google help me? So if you see the Vietnamese business earlier, so he knows how much he has earned and how much his business has expanded. He won't really care about how many people clicked on it. It's more about how many people bought something from me, right? So how are your marketing activities helping you to achieve the right goals? So as I mentioned, so there are all these other goals. And so next slide, please. It will tell you that you need to follow them into the entire customer journey. So make sure that you're able to track, right? So these are the different questions. So next would be the different questions that you want to ask yourself. Do you know your metrics? Have you already set it in stone? So make sure that you have your goals in mind. And then, does your marketing metrics align with your business goals? So if you're looking for revenue, don't track clicks, right? And then how can you break down silos? When I say silos, I've talked to so many clients that has so much politics within their companies, right? So everyone wants something, and then they all don't talk to each other. So make sure that if you're an organization, you all know what each of the different departments are doing. So that helps make things a little bit more easier when it comes to aligning goals. Okay. And then lastly, do you have the right tools on hand? So do you use Google Analytics, for example, to track your websites? Okay. So this is a sample of a video. What I'm going to show you is a case study done by Fairmont Hotels, and on how they use Google Analytics to make sure that all their goals are aligned and they're tracking. Okay.
We have approximately 100 hotels spread across the globe. So from an analytics perspective or a marketing perspective, it becomes quite challenging because every property is so unique. When social media became mainstream, there was all sorts of new tools coming out on the market that were promising to help you understand who these people were and managing your social activities effectively. But I didn't like any of them. The metrics were really lame. Number of likes, number of retweets, that didn't really tell us anything. I wanted to understand if we were attracting different audiences and also what these audiences were doing once they landed on our website. So I decided to install Google Analytics. The big surprise for us was to see that some countries seemed to favor Facebook, while other countries seemed to favor Twitter. At the same time, the content consumed was very different. My social media colleagues were able to tailor their messaging much better, were able to deliver content that their audiences appreciated. The outcome of that was a doubling of our traffic, was a doubling of our bookings and our revenue. We also used the data to convert the non-believers, people that said that social media was a fad, that it didn't really bring us anything. We could actually show them how many times these people interacted with us, how many times they came back to the websites, how many times they ended up booking, and it was a big revelation for everyone.
Okay, so that's how they use Google Analytics, right? So they're able to prove that their social media campaigns in Facebook and Twitter are actually working for them. So it means that they're able to justify it to their bosses. So an analytics person talking to social media team, talking to the paid media team. So they're actually, it's a good collaboration on how they're able to quantify whatever it is that they're doing, all right? So next part is always make sure that you value your best customers. So my tip is basically always make sure that you measure customers and not transactions. What I mean by this is that, of course, looking at numbers is always great. Looking at sales numbers, that's really great. But the best part of it is to measure how you got those numbers. Those are people. Those are your loyal customers, right? Make sure that you nurture them, because if you don't look at customers and you only look at transactions, you might be missing out on the fact that what if the customers or those people who converted, they're just a small fraction. And that's an entire audience that you're missing. Okay, so make sure that you know who your customers are. So it's not enough to know just your best customers. Make sure that you also know who your worst customers are. So what I mean by that is those people who don't buy anything, who don't do a particular goal within your site. So make sure that you also know them, right? So make sure that you know who they are. Where did they come from? How long do they stay on your site? Do they like the pages that they see? And how much do they even spend? What are those things that they purchase? And how much do they cost? So when I say how much do they cost, it's more about how much did it take you to get them to the site and to make a purchase, right? And then always identify all the different channels where you can reach them. So make sure, so yesterday I gave the YouTube talk, and I did mention that the audiences in YouTube are mostly 18 to 34-year-olds. So if it's a younger audience that you want to capture, maybe YouTube is the best medium for it. So make sure that you know the channels that can help influence them, right? And always measure for today and plan for tomorrow. So if you could see that picture, right? That's 2005. That's the death of Pope. And then 2014, that's the 2013, that's the inauguration of the Pope. See the difference? People had their mobile phones right there. In 2005, there was nothing, right? They were just looking on. So make sure that you are prepared to measure for the future, right? Next slide, please. So always ask yourself, do you really know your customers? Do you really know what they like? And how do you acquire them? And does your investments align with how they behave? So are you there? Are you putting ads, or do you have a content in YouTube if you know that your audiences are there, right? So make sure that you're also there. And lastly, are you taking advantage of today's technology to reach those audiences? Okay. All right, so here's a good example of what I just spoke about. So let's play the video.
Lee & Perrins is a staple of British cooking, but it tends to have an older consumer base. The main goal for the campaign is to drive trial and awareness of Lee & Perrins with younger consumers and inspire them to use it in their recipes.
So we explored some insights around how YouTube was being used to research recipes around midweek meals, and we found there was an opportunity for them to work with partners in actually creating content to help this challenge.
The solution came about because Google introduced us to Sorted Foods, a group of dynamic, inspiring young chefs that were creating great content. They were creating meals that young consumers wanted to cook and to try. And so it felt like a great synergy to introduce Lee & Perrins through this content.
So we produced a number of videos with Lee & Perrins. Some of them were recipe videos where we used the Worcestershire sauce within the recipe process, and we also went to the factory, did a tour of the factory and learned about the history of Lee & Perrins.
So creating great content on YouTube absolutely is important. It was also important as well to create TrueView advertising. Having 3,500 subscribers to the Lee & Perrins channel is great, but we wanted to create reach with our campaign as well.
So when planning the TrueView campaign for this activity, we looked at supporting any piece of new content with a TrueView push as well. So as the campaign went on, we built remarketing lists based on anyone who had viewed the first video or the first recipe would then go on and see the second, the third. So sequential remarketing.
The level of targeting that you have through YouTube is far greater than you have with traditional media. And the spend levels can be a lot lower than it can on traditional media such as TV as well. It's a really cost-effective and efficient media platform with high levels of targeting.
So results to date have been fantastic. We've achieved over 2.2 million channel views, which accounts for over 3 years' worth of watch time. And what's been incredible is the audience retention on the content. The Sorted and LMP videos had a 90% view rate, which means 90% of the video was watched.
In terms of engagement, we got loads of positive reaction from people. They joined in with the conversation underneath the recipe videos and gave their tips and tricks.
We also saw strong increases in brand awareness and brand recognition. and importantly, increases in brand metrics, such as being up to date and a brand that I want to use.
From working with creators, I think brands get a whole load of experience built up on YouTube. YouTube is where we spend a lot of our time producing videos, but also engaging with people and talking to people.
If brands are considering working with partners, the one piece of advice I'd give them is trust that partner, because they're the authentic voice for that audience. So it means handing over a little bit of control for your brand and letting that partner create that content for you.
It's a really engaging and energizing experience. It was new, it was different, it was dynamic, but it was engaging and energizing. And I think most importantly, we created a really efficient and effective marketing campaign.
Okay, so two things that they did. One, they know about their audiences. They know what their audience like. They've identified that they want to reach those who want to cook, right? And the other one is they made use of technology. They made use of remarketing to make sure that they're able to show a series of videos to those audiences, right? Next is always make sure that you attribute value. So make sure that you know and that you value all the different channels that you're tapping into, okay? So what really is attribution modeling, right? So in a typical scenario, so next slide, please. That's how we try to attribute the value. So we say that because someone clicked on this ad, that is the ad that actually resulted to the sale. All the other ones are nothing, right? But if you learn how to attribute properly, you learn how to give credit to all the other channels that your customer have gone through before they actually purchased a specific product from you. So I mentioned yesterday, right, that there's a pattern, there's a path. So people search, people look at their website, people search using their phones, people search using their laptops. So make sure that you're able to attribute across those different channels and devices. Okay, so next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's an example, right? So someone searched, and then they converted via email. So they have a likelihood of, let's say, 2% likelihood of a purchase. So the next one is that there's a path that says someone searched, and then they saw a display ad. So they saw, for example, an ad in one of our partner sites, and then they received an email and then converted via email. So it's saying that there's a 3% likelihood of purchase if that's the typical path that it runs to. So imagine if you don't know that, imagine if you didn't know that this is happening on the back end. Most likely you'll just invest all your money in an email campaign, right? Instead of giving value to those first two channels where your ad was seen, okay? So always make sure that you're able to attribute. Next slide, please. You know that there's a recent study by Forrester. It says that 67% of all the marketers, they say that attribution leads to smarter decisions. And, but only 31% of them are actually using it. So it's very important that you know a lot about your customers. You know a lot about their path to purchase, because it gives you the confidence to invest in specific channels, right? So key questions: are you measuring your customers' touch points? Are you measuring where they have been before they bought something from you? So what is the full journey? What does it look like? And do you give value to each of those touch points? And are you applying attribution to make sure that you're investing smart, right? So those are the key questions to ask. So here's an example of attribution and how it has worked for a website. Okay, let's play the video.
Baby Supermall sells a wide variety of baby products, but our biggest offering and what our ads are focused on is crib bedding. The biggest challenge for us is the extremely long buying cycle. Our typical customer is a pregnant mother-to-be. They have months to make a decision. We went through a period where we were reducing our advertising spend because we knew we were being inefficient in places. And it's all because we didn't know what we were doing wrong. And I spent weeks developing a spreadsheet to deal with it. I decided it was so complicated that I was only going to use it every quarter. So it almost made you reluctant to add advertising sources because at the end of the quarter, you knew you were going to have to make this spreadsheet that was already 80 megabytes. When Google finally released a tool that let me replace it, this is groundbreaking. Attribution modeling changes everything. Okay, here's your model. Here's last click. Here's time decay. Now, okay, who cares if they clicked on the Baby Supermall ad last? I can see that before that, they searched for elephant bedding. And before that, they searched for baby bedding. And maybe in between, they searched for boy baby bedding. They had their ultrasound. They figured out what gender they're supposed to be looking for. So now I know what is the path that led to us. I estimated last year that we probably spent an extra $5,000 on AdWords every week solely because of this. And those $5,000 a week were bringing us tens of thousands of dollars in additional sales every week that we might not have had otherwise. We're spending our money more efficiently than we were before. We know what we're getting for it. And attribution modeling let us have time to ask more questions. It's not like we're done, we've run out of questions and all of our problems are solved. We just have time to focus on even harder questions. But we have better tools to help us focus on them.
Okay, so that's how Baby Supermall used attribution modeling to make sure that they're able to spend their marketing budgets wisely. Okay, so next one is to make sure that you know how to validate and to track all the campaigns that you're running. Okay, so next slide, please. All right, so if you try to correlate, that's a big danger of correlation. So it's just saying that so if someone is so they saw an increase in ice cream sales, and they're saying that there's also a direct correlation with an increase in shark attacks, right? So like it makes you think, how does that even happen? But that's because you're missing a very important piece. Okay. Next slide, please. That's because hot weather actually leads to an increase in ice cream purchase. And because the weather is hot, more people are swimming. And that's the real cause of shark attacks, right? So you don't correlate ice cream and shark attacks. So that's a big danger when it comes to correlation. You forgot what really caused the problem. Okay? So that's why it's important to always validate results, always try to validate impacts. Next slide, please. So Google actually has a tool within Google Analytics that would help you create experiments within your website. So it's controlled, it has to be controlled, it has to be robust, and it has to be incremental. So here's another sample, right? So a sample of a test. So I'm going to share one test that we normally give our clients. So it's called geographic testing. So you choose two different geographic locations, and then you try to make sure that one is where you run the test, and then the other is you don't touch it. You don't do anything, right? And the best part of this is that Google's location targeting is really very accurate as of this point. So we can track cities. We can target cities. So, and we can target the whole country as well, right? So next slide, please. So the questions that you want to ask yourself is, are you relying too much on correlations? Are you one of those people who would say that an increase in ice cream sales is directly correlated to an increase in shark attacks? Or, so do you know what's the incremental value of each of your investments? Do you know how much you're getting out of your investments? Next is, do you really experiment? Do you run tests? And then lastly, is there a plan? Do you have plans to test new marketing channels? Right. So next slide, I'm going to show a sample of how they made on how they were successful with geographic testing. It's done in the UK, right? So let's play the video.
The biggest issue we've got in terms of correlation between our search activity and our offline activity is that we've never really truly been able to prove the impact our search ads have.
We always knew search played a role in driving offline sales as well as online, but the big question was how much?
EE stands out from the competition for being the UK's biggest and fastest 4G mobile network, also innovation, and probably Kevin Bacon.
The major challenge with understanding the offline effects of search ads is we know the purchase journey is just really complex at the moment. Quite often people research online before they actually consider buying a mobile phone.
Google has been really beneficial for our business just because they're at the forefront of the latest insights, trends and innovation.
It's a reassuring experience for us because we were tapping onto scientific knowledge and mathematical knowledge to answer a marketing question.
EE actually delivered us offline sales data for all of the UK, and we analyzed this historical data, broke it up into these 24 regions, and really studied how the sales are distributed across the country and also how they fluctuate over time.
We split out 12 as a test region and 12 as a control region. With the help of Google, we made sure that one region matched in the test group matches with a control group. So, for instance, Edinburgh will have very similar characteristics with Belfast. Once that's all been split up, we upweighted our search activity in the test regions, and we monitored the impact on offline sales afterwards.
For every one sale we drove through search, drove an additional 2.6 in store. That's an amazing result. The result that did surprise us was the return on investment through search. So for every £1 we spent, we got £2.32 back. So that is, really, really important, especially when we're speaking to our finance department.
We look forward to working with Google in future to answer more questions that's currently unknown to us.
All right, so their earning more than doubled after they did that test. So at least now they know, and they're able to justify the kind of investment or the level of investment that they do. Okay. All right, so 4 things for you to be able to measure properly. 1, always make sure that you focus on the right metrics. 2, value your best customers. Stop measuring just transactions, and always look at the people who buy or do something for you. Next is make sure that you try to attribute channels across attribute value across the different channels. And then lastly, make sure that you're able to validate the impact of your marketing spend. Okay, so next please. All right, so that's my email. You could take down my email, ask me questions, or anything else. And then lastly, right, I think I forgot to mention earlier, these Google products actually, I've been running campaigns since 2009. It's an alternative way to actually earn income at least for the young people here. I tried to learn it. I know it was tough. It's very technical, and it's very hard to. It's quite hard to learn actually, but it's kind of rewarding, right? So six years ago, I was out there pitching this to clients, pitching this to potential people, and so I was out there chasing different business owners and urging them to run campaigns, right? But then 6 years later, here I am now with Google, and still advocating the product because I know how much it helps people, right? So that's my email. I'll be here. Grab me if you have any questions. Thank you.